Beautiful day outside.
It's I like to think of this time of year as it's hooky season. It's when you want to play hooky from work because it just feels so good outside.
I think today we should finish our pod and just go play golf.
Should we cancel on our next guest after this and just go play golf instead?
And just show up here and sit down and just, you guys can just ask him questions.
What we really need to do.
And let him just stare at an empty seat.
What we really need to do is what our good friend Landon Benjamin is doing.
What is he doing?
And have a podcast on the golf course.
Yeah, that's great.
Do both of them at one time.
He had me on there, and I'm probably the worst golfer. I think he was thinking that I was going to be really good. I've never told him I'm good. I actually told him the opposite. He's like, "Oh no, you're great. You're going to do great." I was like, "Bro, I'm like a 15 handicap."
Did he make you feel like you were doing a bad job?
No, we used a few of my putts.
Yeah, you did.
So it's like pastors that break par.
Big putt guy.
Big putt guy. I get my rounds in. All right, let's do this. Let's chop it up. What do you want to talk about?
Okay, we're going to talk about something that I feel like is a little bit of our bread and butter here with Sidecar, and especially
you don't want to overpromise and underdeliver. This is not our bread and butter. This is just like a little slice of butter.
Okay, a little slice of butter. It's something that we talk a lot about.
We do.
In our coaching, because of how important it is. So whether if it's our bread and butter or not, it's still really important to have on the plate.
It's that piece of bread, you know, the one, the hill, what's it called? Is it the hill on a loaf of bread? It's like that,
I always call that the butt.
The butt piece of yeah. I hate that piece. When that's the last piece in there, do you make a sandwich?
Yeah, but that's not what we're talking about today.
Okay.
Today, what we're going to talk about is culture.
Culture
Trumps everything. And I think that there's a few reasons we feel like this is so important, which we'll dive into today. But as leaders of organizations, I think it can be really easy to feel like you're just looking for like, what is the next thing that's going to help our organization? And so oftentimes you can look and think that you have a strategy issue. Like, what is the next strategy that's really going to help us get to the next level or accomplish the vision or do whatever it is that we're trying to accomplish here? Or a structural issue where we've got to move people around. We don't have the right people on the team. So you're constantly looking at the strategy or the structure of the organization. Mm-hmm. And oftentimes, I think what you have is not a strategy or a structure issue, but what you actually have is a culture issue within your organization. Yeah. And you don't have the culture where a strategy and a structure can thrive. Yeah. So even with the right strategy and the right structure, they still will not work because you have a bad culture. Yeah,
I mean, I was just, while you're talking, I was thinking, how many pastors have gone to church conferences and been inspired by the topic that's being talked about, or the vision, or the this play, like run this play, brought it back to their church, ran the play, but it still fell flat.
Right.
That was probably a culture issue, right? How many leaders, CEOs or founders of a nonprofit or whatever, they hear some latest thing and they're like, we're going to do that. If it's yielding those types of results, let's do that in our organization, which isn't necessarily a bad idea, but you're looking for this silver bullet, and then you start, trying to run that play in your organization, and you're like, why are we not getting the same results that this other person is getting? And a lot of times it's because you don't have the culture that they have. Because it's not just that they have a great, this organization that's really fruitful has a great vision or a great product. A lot of times it is, they have a great culture.
Yeah.
And I've even seen, mediocre leaders with a mediocre vision, with a mediocre play, but with unbelievable healthy culture, and they crush it.
Yeah.
And I think culture, it truly is. I mean, Harvard Business talks about that. I read it. It was probably, 10 years ago. It talked about culture trumps everything. Yeah. It's one of the most important things. I think culture, I don't know if this was like Pastor Chris Hodges that said this or not, but culture eats vision. 10 times out of 10, it does. Like, you can have unbelievable vision to do great things, but if you don't have great culture, healthy, good, defined culture, nothing's going to happen.
Yeah, that's great.
So,
there's a few things. Well, one thing that I think is important to say here is that every organization has culture. It doesn't matter if you're a church, if you're a nonprofit, if you're a business, every organization has culture. Every family has culture. Yep. So what is our norm and our way of doing things around here? Yeah. And so whether you're intentional about your culture or unintentional about your culture, you still have it. Yeah. So is it working for you, or is it working against you? Yeah. I think there's three things that are true when culture is right in your organization that I think all of us are looking for. One is that the right decisions get made even when no one's watching. Because your culture acts like a decision-making filter for what is it that we're going to do here. So when it's clear, the right decisions are made. The other thing that I think is true is the right people find you and the wrong ones self-select out.
Yeah, that's
I
great.
can think of a few different organizations that I know of where people either love it or they hate it. And it's because the culture is so strong in those organizations that it acts like this natural vetting process for them. So as people get to learn the organization, they really quickly know like, oh, this is a place for me and I'm going to thrive here. Or this is like totally not who I am. It's not what I'm about. And I'm not going to do well here, and I need to move on to the next thing.
You know what I think about when you said that? Our buddy Josh Britt that works for Ramsey Solutions.
Yeah, that was the organization, one of them that came to mind for me.
Yeah, he told me, I said, what's it like working here? He goes, you either love it or hate it.
Yeah.
And I said, talk to me about that. He goes, Dave Ramsey is very clear about who we are.
Yeah.
And you either love it or you hate it.
Yeah.
And he was like, and some people come here and he even said, he was like, they drank the Ramsey Kool-Aid.
Yeah.
He was like, they just, this culture that has been designed, it's not a default. It has been designed intentionally this way, the way that we behave, the way that we value things. It's so clear that people come here and they go, yes, this is who I am and this is who I aspire to be. And I want to be in this organization. Or they come there and they're like, I hate this. I hate everything about it. I hate the way it functions. And that's a good thing because, I think it's good on both sides. Like it protects the organization from having people that could contaminate their culture. And it also protects the person. Like if this isn't what you want as a working environment, if this isn't what you value, then go find somewhere else that you do value and that you can flourish in. Because if it is a culture that you hate, you yourself as a leader will never flourish.
Yeah, absolutely. So I think if you're looking to make sure you have the right people on your team, do you have the right culture to attract the right people? Would be a question that I would ask. And then the third thing, what happens when culture is right is clarity exists at every level and people are able to actually know what to do without being told. Which who as a leader doesn't want that? That people know what to do. They know the right decisions to make. They know how to act without being told what to do because it's just so clear. This is who we are and this is who we are not as well.
Are you an executive leader looking to level up? Or are you leading a team that could use a crash course into effective leadership? Our Leadership Masterclass teaches 7 essential leadership skills that you can implement immediately with your team. These are practical, proven strategies to help you lead with clarity and confidence. If you're ready to transform your leadership, sign up today at sidecarleader.com and get started with resources that you can use right away.
Whenever we talk about this, like whenever we go and do these leadership workshops and whatever, one of the things we always bring up is the parable of the sower, right? And I know that some of our audience may not be church-going people or faith-based people, but I think this parable is a really transferable and transcendent parable. But it's in the ministry and the life of Jesus. One of his teachings, he talks about the parable of the sower, which I honestly think that it should be referred to as the parable of the soil or the soils because of the nature of it. So the story goes like this, like there's a sower that goes out, one sower goes out and he has one type of seed and he's scattering this seed and it falls on 4 different types of soils. And it's great because when you think about it, it's like, you got these 3 first soils and he talks about it and we'll break it down in a second. These 3 first soils is trying to paint a picture of something that's bad, that's not healthy, that's not good, that's toxic, that's whatever. And Jesus is referring to the human heart. But I believe that the culture of your organization is the heart of your organization. The culture of your organization is the soil of your organization. And then he describes the 4th soil, which is a good, a healthy, life-giving, flourishing soil. And the interesting thing is that the first 3, they really don't produce the results that he desires, but the good soil, it does. And so the differentiating factor is not that there's a better leader. It's the same leader. It's the same sower. It's not that, the first 3 got bad seed and the 4th one got good seed. No, it's the same seed. The only thing that's different is the soil that the sower is planting the seed in. The seed could be your vision. It could be your product. It could be whatever. The soil is the culture that you're planting your systems in, you're planting your structure in, you're planting your vision in. And so I'd love to just kind of break those down for just a little bit.
Yeah, I think that's great. The first one it talks about, and I think as we think of through this, each of those different soil types in the parable, the hard soil, the shallow soil, the thorny soil, and then the good soil. They all represent a different kind of culture
Yep.
that we see in different organizations. And so we want to spend a few minutes unpacking that.
The hard soil.
Yeah. So the hard soil, this would be a culture that is resistant, it's closed to feedback, and it's closed to change. It's pretty set in its ways.
Yeah.
You can think of when the vision comes in, it just bounces right off.
Yeah.
The leadership says the right thing, but nothing actually takes root there. Culture where people don't listen.
Yeah. Especially the leadership.
Especially the leadership doesn't listen. What they say is right, or what they have been doing is the same thing we're always going to be doing. So nothing new is able to take root.
Yeah. Yeah. We're going to do this. We're going to run this play because this is what we've always done, and they're resistant to change, even if it's not yielding fruit.
Right.
There's no results. There's no success. It's like, well, this is how we've always done it.
Yeah. It's more married to the method than to the byproduct or the fruit that's happening.
Yeah.
Like we are who we are because we do things how we have always done things.
I think the other part about a hard culture is when the team is hard to lead. They just don't, you as the leader, you're trying to bring them in this direction and they're just very hard to lead. They're resistant to your leadership. That's another piece right there. I think, with your team like that, it's like pulling teeth to try to get them to go in a certain direction.
Yeah.
I had that whenever I was on staff at Gateway Church, that I had a team of pastors. We're like, I remember I was like, hey, we're starting this new initiative. It was a conference. They had always done camps. That's what they'd always done. But it also was putting them in the red by like 50 to 100K every year they did these camps. And I was like, hey, why don't we not do camps and let's do a conference and let's invite other churches, and we can actually not only not lose money, we can actually save money and generate more revenue.
Right.
And we're going to move in this direction. And man, it was like pulling teeth to get them to move in that direction. And part of the reason why was at the time we hired five different new pastors, and they all came with their own culture.
Yeah.
So it was hard. It was just a challenge. And finally, after pulling many teeth, we did a conference and it was very successful. It was great. But I think sometimes a hard culture is just like the people are hard to lead, and you wonder why.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. I think that's great. And I think what's true of these organizations, especially when what's causing the soil to be hard is when leadership doesn't listen. What happens is that you see the rest of the organization disengage because their voice doesn't matter in the first place.
Yeah.
So why would I step in and say something here? So if you want a culture where people are engaging and people are taking ownership and they're thinking of new ways to do things and new ways to accomplish the vision, this culture is not going to work for you.
Here at Sidecar Leader, we don't just develop content that we hope adds value to you. Our bread and butter is really our coaching. If you're feeling stuck as a leader, whether you're navigating growth, strategic planning, staffing decisions, or tackling your toughest priorities, our one-on-one coaching sessions are here to guide you. Together, we'll identify the strategies and steps that will take your leadership to the next level. It's time to invest in your growth because your vision and your team deserve it. If you're ready to get started, you can visit sidecarleader.com/coaching. We can't wait to work alongside of you.
Then you have the rocky soil that Jesus talked about in the parable. I think that represents shallow culture, high enthusiasm, but no staying power. Like the inability to really execute, gets excited about every new initiative, but burns out. Then it fades out. No depth of values. The organization moves with the mood, not with conviction. Common. This is very common in like fast growing or new startups, a new church plant. Maybe it's a new organization that's just getting off the ground, and it's just shallow.
Yeah, I think that these are often the organizations that we talked about at the beginning. Like they're just chasing what's the next thing that's going to help us. Let's go to this conference
the silver bullet,
and let's take their playbook and let's implement it. And then the next month we're at a new conference and we take that playbook and then we implement it. Nothing sticks. You're excited about what's on trend or the next thing that you think is going to fix everything.
Yes.
And therefore nothing happens.
And some of it is also like, I think of like the church that we're a part of. It's a 2-year-old church.
Sure.
We're not, and we know we have a clear vision. We have a clear play that we're running, all that stuff. But the reality is as a new church, you don't have culture yet. Like I would submit the idea that when you start something new, it's probably going to take you 2 to 3 years for the culture to really, if you're working it, intentionally. It's going to take 2 to 3 years to get healthy culture in place where it's clearly defined values, clearly defined behaviors. It's just going to take some time. And even for us, like I feel like in January, we were just talking about this last night in our men's small group. In January, something shifted. Well, we're going into year 3.
And I think what's interesting about that is when you know culture is set is when you as the leader aren't having to share it and shape it, but other people notice it and they own it as well.
Yeah.
And what's interesting about that with our church specifically is going into year 3, to your point, other people have told us that, hey, I can really sense that something shifted this year. And January of this year, something's changed in our church. We had our biggest small groups launch that we've had this year. Our worship on Sunday mornings has been some of the best worship moments that we've had so far. And those aren't things that we've said, but those are things that other people have told us. And I think it's because the culture is set now. We probably did have a shallow culture for the 2 years leading up to this because it was so new. But now we've actually spent the time working the soil. We're seeing the fruit of that pay off within the culture.
Then you have the next one is the thorny soil. It's toxic or distracted culture. Too many competing priorities. Vision gets choked out before it can grow. Talk about that.
Yeah, I mean, I think you said it. It's the organization. Everything is urgent, so therefore nothing is urgent. Again, priorities there's too many of them, or they're unclear in what's important. So things are just choking each other out. It's an organization where there's silos, so it's not talking to one another. Or it could be the organization that is a lot of gossip, a politically driven organization.
It's like different agendas.
Or there's those office politics that you have to navigate as well. So I think that would be the thorny culture. And there's a lot of things that might choke out the vision, but in this one, it could be priorities or just the politics of the office as well.
To wrap a bow on that, I think there's just in a culture that's a thorny culture, that's toxic. It's division. There's just so much division. There's siloed
of priorities.
That's probably the best word to put it there. And you feel that. That is something and that's the thing about culture. Culture is something that you feel, you experience it. And when a culture is toxic like that, where there's division, you just walk in, it's like, it's in the air. It's like, you just feel it, you sense it, and you're like, something's off here. Well, it's because it's unhealthy, it's toxic, it's distracted, it's competing. There's a lot of division. And then it goes into the good soil, which is obviously what we all want. We want some good soil, baby. It's cultivated, it's consistent, and it's not contaminated. It takes work. It takes work and it takes time.
I think good soil is also, it's clear. Like your values are clearly aligned. They're clearly communicated, and then they're clearly understood among people as well. You don't have those competing priorities. You know what the priorities are because you know what we value here as an organization.
And it does not, you're not going to get good soil by accident. It's going to be, you got to be very, very intentional. And a lot of times when we talk to people with Sidecar, they're like, how do we even define, like, how do we know who we are? How do we become intentional about this so that we can perpetuate this in our organization so that everyone gets it and so that we can produce the types of results we want?
And I think that's a lot of what we do and how we serve churches at Sidecar. I know we spent about a month ago, we flew down to Dallas for the day, and we spent a whole day.
It was fun
with this team. It was one of my favorite work days that we've had this year as well. And I think that the leader of this organization, who will remain unnamed for now. Would also have said the same thing as well. We spent the whole day going over values, going over culture, defining that for them, looking at how we're going to deliver that throughout the organization as well. And by the end of the day, what was so cool in the room is you could feel how excited people were about it. And because everyone also had the opportunity to weigh in on it, there was such a buy-in of like, now we can run with this. And we're excited to be able to run with this as an organization. I don't know if I told you this or not,
but that pastor, he texted me afterwards and he said, this is the most alive I have felt in over 10 years. And I was like, man, all we did was a culture workshop. And I think it's because this guy is filled with vision. Right. He's busting at the seams with vision and ideas. But I think getting the right people in the room, asking the right questions, and then watching them get aligned and say, yes, that is who we are.
Yeah.
There was something, it was almost like, I mean, honestly, it's like an organization discovering their identity.
Yeah.
Right? I mean, you think about how insecure we are as individuals when we don't know who we are.
Yeah.
And we're trying to find our identity in all these other things. And then when you finally have that sense of like, I know who I am, the type of confidence that it gives you,
Yeah.
I think it's the same thing in an organization. When
Yeah.
you know who you are, it just breeds this confidence because you have clarity. Clarity
Yeah.
brings confidence. And just watching that team, man, it was like, it got me fired up. I was like, I
Yeah.
want to do more of these. Like,
Yeah.
I just completely loved it.
Well,
But
and what's cool is that was a new organization that we did that with,
Yeah.
but we've also done it with organizations who have gone through a transition
Yeah.
where there was a leadership. I mean, I think of
Trademark?
another one. Yeah. In Texas that we've worked with, Trademark Church, they were a 50-year-old church. We came in and worked with the lead pastor when I think he was 3 years into things
Yeah.
to help them really reset their culture, which is still so important at that stage. It's different at that stage
Yeah.
because you're not starting from scratch. You actually have 50 years of culture that you're
trying to weed out some
trying
of
to
it.
weed out or trying to clarify, refine.
Yeah.
So I think there's different challenges with both of them, but it regardless of where you are as an organization, it's still important.
Is your team ready to thrive? Do they have the resources and clarity that they need to succeed? In our team coaching sessions, we provide the tools and principles needed to drive health and growth, and most importantly, clarity in your organization. We believe that clarity brings the confidence to lead effectively. So many times we're too close to the problems to see them correctly. And through coaching, we're able to bring objectivity and no emotional attachment to help you see your organization clearly. Together, we'll develop a strategic path that empowers your team to implement best practices and take on new challenges with confidence. Let's unlock your team's potential. Want to learn more? Head over to sidecarleader.com/coaching and let's talk about your goals and how we can help you accomplish them.
So talk to us about this. If someone, regardless of where they are on the journey, if they're an existing organization or they're starting from scratch, how do you begin that journey of like cultivating the good soil, the good culture for your organization?
Well, first you have to come to terms with the fact that you already have culture. That's the first thing.
Even a new organization?
You have culture because you probably have competing culture. You're a new organization with new staff or new team.
So it's unclear.
It's just unclear. And so if you don't set the culture, then the culture that people are carrying into that organization, they're going to set it for you. And you're not going to like what you see. And so I think the first thing you got to go is we already have some type of culture, but it's probably a bunch of micro cultures running around competing with each other. And so we want to say, hey, we already have it. So now we got to say, we're going to cultivate it. It's like in the parable, the soil was already there and it had to be cultivated. Like in any time when you're farming, and I know nothing about farming, but you have to till the ground. You have to pull the junk out that's in there to get the soil prepared so that you can see a harvest of what you're trying to get. And I think the same thing is like the soil is already there. So just come to grips with that. The soil is there. Now you have to evaluate, what do we need to pull out of this? What do we need to confront? What do we need to address? And what's the good stuff that we need to start cultivating? What are the good values that we need to start implementing in this? And I think there's a system that we have, a framework, and I love it, is you have to define it. You have to deliver it. You have to defend it. And so that's one of the things that we work with our clients. And so I'd love to just kind of unpack that for just a little bit about defining it. You know, you said this about the church in Dallas that we worked with. We got the right people in the room. And I love that because I think sometimes leaders feel like they're going to be like Moses and go on the mountain and get everything by themselves and come back and just push it on the people. And maybe there is some level of you can do that. But I think the better way, this is just my opinion, my humble but accurate opinion, the better way is to actually get people, the right people in the room and begin to go through some strategic questions of answering the question, who are we?
Yeah.
Who are we actually today? And who do we aspire to be?
Yeah.
And then in that process, like what you said, the phrase, they were weighing into it. And where there's weigh-in, there's buy-in. All those leaders, as we begin to talk through things, it's interesting. One person's like, well, I think this is who we are. And then another person in the room was like, I don't think that's who we are. And we're like, cool, let's talk about that.
And that's what you want.
You want that. It's a healthy tension. And it wasn't like fighting and throwing stuff at the wall, but it was
a healthy
definitely
debate.
It was debating and discussing and dialogue about like, okay, who are we and who do we hope to be? Who do we want to be? So I think getting the right people in the room and asking the right questions, you can quickly get to that place. And I would even say, if you're trying to come up with your organizational values, you probably should just have 5 to 7. Like you shouldn't have like 50 values.
Yeah.
If it's not memorable, it's not portable.
Yeah.
And you want your values to be portable so that people can run with it. I think about that scripture in Habakkuk chapter 2. It says, write down the vision, make it plain and clear so that what? So that the runner can run with it.
Yeah.
And I think that's a principle. Like if you just have too many values, you have too many of these things, no one's going to be able to run with it. So getting it to like 5 to 7, I think is really good. And so just going through a series of questions, which we do, and getting people to agree upon. And that's the big part of it. Do we all agree that this is who we are and who we hope to be?
What if someone doesn't agree upon one of them?
I think you keep having the discussion. And then at the end of the day, if there's one person that can't yield to the consensus in the room, then maybe that's the wrong person in that room.
Yeah.
You don't want to just quickly write people off. But the reality is if there's one person that is just pushing back on that value or this set of values and they can't go, you know what, maybe everyone else sees what I don't see.
Yeah.
Then that means that person's probably lacking humility.
Yeah.
Or lacking some emotional intelligence or something.
Yeah. And are they able to carry a culture that they don't agree with as well?
You'll find out.
Would be a question that I would want to see with them as well.
Yeah, you'll eventually find out.
I think the other thing, it's interesting you say 5 to 7 because 5 to 7 core values for your organization. Because I think we've worked with some that at the start of our process, they've got a whole list of them that the leader can't even remember because there's so many of them. And we often get pushback when we try to limit them down to that because they feel like all of them are important. So all of them should be core values. And I think what we would say is like, what are the ones that like, if we don't do this, we're actually, if you're a faith-based organization, we are not being obedient to who God has called us to be.
Yep.
Or if we don't do this, we aren't going to be able to do what we're supposed to do as an organization.
Yep.
Like when you cut us, this is what we bleed.
Yep.
It is the lifeblood of the organization. That should be how important these core values are to you. And so some of those, if you have a long list, are probably important, but they're secondary.
It's sort of the way you look at like a company looks at a primary customer or a primary persona. It's not that all the other customers are not important. They may buy your product, but we are going after this primary customer.
Yeah.
And then we have supporting customers. I think values are the same way. These are our primary 5 to 7 values. And these other things, they are important to us and we do value them, but they're supporting values. And I would even submit the idea that you could probably get 5 to 7 values and they operate almost like buckets that you can kind of take some of those supporting values and they're like sub values underneath it. But I would kind of focus on 5 to 7 so you can make them super portable.
Yeah.
So you define it, number one. And then the second thing is you got to start delivering it. So how do you deliver it? We talk about this with some of our clients all the time. I think first and foremost, let's just establish this. You define or you deliver culture first and foremost by personifying it. Mm-hmm. You model what you want multiplied.
It's caught, not taught.
Yeah. And so that is the most powerful way to set a culture and to deliver a culture is like, if you say that excellence is a value of your organization, well, man, as the leader or as one of the leaders on the leadership team, you better carry a spirit of excellence in all that you do, right? You model it. You can't tell someone to do something that you're not doing because that means you have zero moral authority.
Yeah.
Moral authority comes when there's an alignment between what you're asking people to do and what you actually do as a leader. Mm-hmm. So I think personifying it first and foremost is the most important.
What if your team had a clear roadmap for the next 12 months on what was most important, complete with objectives, key metrics, owners, and deadlines? And not only that, but also the accountability to see the plan through. Through our team planning offsites, we're able to help you unlock and identify where you are, where you want to go, and how to get there. With a focus on goals, key metrics, and actionable strategies, we'll build a plan that keeps you on track all year and provide the accountability to ensure that you execute what you planned. If you plan your work and you work your plan will work if it's a good plan. If you're ready to set up your team for success, clarity, and a clear roadmap moving forward, you can go to sidecarleader.com/coaching and let's make your vision a reality.
We like to say there's 3 really practical ways that you can deliver the values, your primary values as an organization. I think the first is with statements. statement, sticky statement. So like if a value is, let's just say use like servant leadership. That was an organization that I was a part of. And they said servant leadership, that is what we value here as a church. We value serving. And so a sticky statement that the leader would always say is, if serving is beneath you, then leading is beyond you.
Yeah, that's great.
Right? If you're too big to serve, you're too small to lead. And again, these are sticky statements that are clear, but they're portable, and they have some level of inspiration to them, and it's setting a standard.
Yeah.
And so I think those sticky statements are really, really important.
And then the other things I think, like you always say, are the what are the stories that we're telling? And so I think with that, you've got to learn how to be a collector of stories.
Yeah.
And your values should also shape what kind of stories we're looking for as well. And how are we always telling stories that reinforce the value and the behavior that we're trying to see replicated throughout the organization as well.
Yeah,
so stories would be that one.
Yeah, you're going to feel like you're a broken record, but keep going, because culture, the way that culture sticks is when it's repeated over and over.
It's just like vision. We always say
again.
vision leaks. Same thing, culture leaks as well.
Yeah.
Same thing. I mean, think about a garden. You're always having to weed out.
Yeah, always.
And make sure that the right things are growing and the wrong things are not. Same thing. It's a repetitive process that you're always going to go through. So you're going to feel a little bit like a broken record.
Yeah.
Continuing to repeat those statements and those stories.
Yeah, stories, statements, and then the third one we say is symbols.
Yeah. Yeah. What are the symbols that represent the different values that we can implement throughout the organization as well? I always love when you walk into an office and they like clearly have their values displayed in different ways. It feels so thoughtful and intentional around how they're trying to design the organization. One of the ways you can do this, I know for another organization, again, their value was serving. And so the phrase that they always would say is, we're about towels, not titles.
Yeah.
Coming from how a server has a towel over their arm, serving other people as well. And so they would give those towels away to people who are new to the organization as a way to symbolize the value that we're trying.
Who we are.
Yeah, this is who we are.
I think an important thing is, I hope people hear this, is that I think in an undefined culture or an unhealthy culture, you're policing people that do things that you don't want them to do. And you say phrases like this, hey, we don't do that. That's not what we do. And I actually think that is probably one of the worst phrases. So the better thing to say is, once you have a defined culture, you know who we are. The better thing to say is, hey, that's not who we are.
Yeah.
And because that's not who we are, this is how this should be done.
And I think that's the third thing in here is you got to define it, deliver it, and then defend it.
Yeah.
And what you're talking about now is, how do we defend the culture that we have defined?
Yeah. Every teammate in your organization should be ambassadors for the culture and guardians of the culture.
At every level of the organization, right?
Every level. And there has to be accountability. And, we'll tell people, like, you've got to know, like, what are the fouls in the organization? When someone steps over the line and they're misrepresenting who we are, how do we hold them accountable? And that's with some feedback, some tough conversations. And I think, you can correct me if I'm wrong, that should be when it comes to culture, that should be cross-functional.
Absolutely.
And every person, it's like you're on the table. Like if you're not representing who we are, and you're in the kids ministry over here, and I'm over here in the, music, the worship and, creative arts ministry, and I see something that's not who we are, I think that you have the right to be able to call that out and call them up to a higher standard, because that's just not who we are.
Yeah. Yeah. You have the right to at least question it. I think you should go and we always lead with the question rather than an accusation, but you absolutely have the right to do that. Yeah. So 3 things: define, defend, deliver. I think that's great. That's easy. And those are action steps that anyone can do right now, regardless of the size of the organization or the maturity of the organization as well.
I think one of the things I want to bring up here for a second is, how many times have we worked with a client and they hire someone and they come in and they're like, and then they fire them and they go, well, they're just not who we are. And they do it really fast. And there are times when maybe that's warranted, if somebody's way off. But I think that we need to remember that culture, in the same way it takes time to build as an organization, it takes time for a new employee, a new staff to get the culture, a new volunteer to get the culture. And we need to be patient and work with people and give them some time. I'm from the South, so it's a crazy illustration. But I went into my wife's grandmother's house years ago, opened the cabinets, and I'm telling you, from like floor to ceiling, it was jars of pickles. She was into pickling. And I'm just staring at it, and her name was Nana. And I was like, you collect pickles in here? And she's like, oh, I love pickling. And so I started chatting with her, and she goes, do you know what a pickle actually is? And I was like, it's a pickle. She goes, no, it's a cucumber. And it's been sitting in those containers. And over time, the pickling process is as it stays in this liquid, it takes on that liquid and it literally transforms a cucumber into a pickle. And I was sitting there thinking about that years later. I'm like, that is the culture with new staff and new. It sounds funny. It's like the pickling process is like, give them time to sit in, give them time to sit in your culture. And as if the culture is healthy, good, and defined, as they're in it, they will begin to be transformed into that culture. And then they'll become some of your best carriers of it.
They'll be repelled by it.
And or they'll be repelled by it.
Yeah. But either way, you'll know if they're the right person for your organization or not.
That's good.
Hope to self-work for people.
Yeah, baby. Define it, deliver it, defend it. How do we deliver it? Stories, statements, symbols. Beautiful. Amen, church.